what I wanted to do is I wanted to look at what drives the stock market. So the traditional view is it's driven by economic fundamentals like dividends and profits and unemployment, but I wanted to show that the market is also affected by emotion. So I wanted to look at the effect of an international sporting defeat, the idea being that if a country loses an international competition, that affects investor mood and therefore can show up in the stock market. So what I looked at is I looked at the results of over 1,000 football games and 1,500 other sports, including rugby. And what I did is I had a model of what should you expect to happen to the stock market if there was no rugby or football match. So this was based on what happened the previous day, what's happening in the broader economy and so on. And so once I had a benchmark for what should happen with no result, then I looked at what actually did happen and I compared the difference, and the difference I attributed to the sports game. So what I found for football was that elimination from a major competition leads to the market going down by 0.5% the next day, and for rugby it's 0.15%. So you might think, is that a big deal? But 0.15% applied to the UK stock market. That is £3 billion wiped off the market on a single day. That was the motivation for looking at something such as sporting events, because there are other events that affect a national mood, such as a plane crash or an election and so on. But those events don't just affect investor mood, they also affect the economy. So if you found that the stock market went down after a plane crash, that could be purely rational. It's because the market knows that there's going to be less expenditure on, say, aviation travel. But something like sport, this doesn't have an economic effect outside a few sectors, such as, say, pubs or replica merchandise, and therefore, given there shouldn't be an effect on unemployment and dividends and these fundamental factors, we can attribute almost the entire decline to the impact it has on mood. What we can also look at is we found that the effect was stronger in small stocks, and small stocks tend to be more affected by sentiment because they're traded more by retail investors rather than large hedge funds who tend to be less prone to mood. So clearly, sports results are only one determinant of what happens to the stock market. This will be overshadowed by economic factors which are clearly more important. So you might wonder, well, what's happened to the UK stock market today? Well, at the time of speaking, I believe the FTSE All Shares up by 1.8%. So you might think this is a huge contradiction of my paper, but why is the market up? Well, what did we see on Friday was we saw some soft non-farm payroll numbers from the US. That led to a huge swing, the largest one-day swing for 4 years in the US. Stocks went up a lot. That also fed over to the Asian market. So Australia has done even better than England. It's up by 2%. So what I'm arguing is that, well, the broader market movements today are mainly driven by this US payrolls number, but the UK has not gone up by as much as it might have done otherwise because of the rugby defeat.